Super. Now we can begin properly, you see. So I am going to let you get comfortable. Find a space where you can stretch out. You can either be laid down, you may prefer to sit up. You might have been doing enough lying down over the last couple of weeks. The key is to find a comfortable space where you won't be distracted by anything else that's going on, and you won't be kind of thinking about how you're holding your body. You just want everything to kind of release and relax. Think about the way that you position your hands. Try to relax the hands, unclenching the jaw. Take a moment to squeeze the shoulders up towards the ears, and as you exhale, mindfully release the shoulders away. So let everything soften, become heavy, ease a little more deeply into the earth beneath you. If you're happy to do so, either close your eyes or soften your gaze and bring your full awareness to the breath. So even though we might have had some time to relax, to lie around watching TV, eating nice food, drinking all the drinks, it might be that you've not had any time to really, truly check in with how your body feels. So let's take a moment to scan the body from head to toe, just noticing without judgment. Anywhere that you may be holding tension, noticing anywhere that may be asking for a little extra attention, anywhere that might need a little extra healing. As you continue this journey of curiosity, take your breath a little deeper. Feel yourself filling the lungs completely, exhaling to empty the lungs fully. Through this deepened, lengthened breath, an awareness that you're taking up space, that you're encouraging the body to expand and widen into the space that surrounds you, yet remaining grounded, connected to the earth beneath you. Let's rearrange our hands for a moment. Place your left hand on the heart, place your right hand on the belly, and just lean into this rhythm of this deeper, lengthened breath. Once more, filling the lungs completely. Emptying the lungs fully. Now start to count the beats, the length of time it takes for a full breath in. Compare with the length of time it takes for a full breath out. Let's all work towards taking a breath in for a count of 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then exhaling 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we'll keep to that rhythm, inhaling for 4, pausing now and holding for 2, and exhaling fully for 4, 3, 2, and 1. One more time, repeat that pattern, inhaling for 4, holding for 2, then exhaling for that full 4 counts. Now, your choice whether you want to continue to count or if you want to focus on the action next. Inhaling to the belly first, then the chest, then the collarbones. Holding the breath at the top, then exhaling from the collarbones, the chest, and the belly last. So that might feel like you're inhaling for 2 to the belly, 1 to the chest, 1 to the collarbones, holding for 2, then exhaling, 1 from the collarbones, 1 from the chest, and the last 2 from the belly. Without any word from me, continue that rhythm in your own quiet. One more round. So we can let go of the counting, but keep that rhythm of inhaling to the belly, the chest, and the collarbones. Proceed straight to the exhalation from the collarbones, the chest, to the belly last. Then slowly start to work your way back towards a comfortable, easy breath. No forcing. And just notice the difference in where you're sending the breath. Feel that expansion through the back of the rib cage. You might notice a little more lift through the belly. For those of you who are in a laid down position, take a moment now to just gently start to move fingers, wiggle toes. Inhale to take a long stretch through the body. Those of us sitting, bring the arms overhead, point through fingers, just gently wiggle the toes. Then as you exhale, those of you laying down, hug the knees to the chest. Those of you seated, bring your hands to the knees. Gently nod the chin towards the chest. Draw the tummy button towards the spine and create a little release through the middle back and the upper back. Inhale to return to a seated position. Those of you who are laid down, just take a moment to roll to one side and join us here in a seated cross-legged position. Hopefully my camera's straight. That's a bit better. Perfect. So I'm going to start with right foot in front of left. For those of you who've been seated the whole time, you might want to just switch over to the opposite, just to give yourself a little bit of release through the hips, through the ankles. We'll place the backs of the hands on the inner thighs, palms turned up towards the ceiling. And I want you to feel as though you're gently leaning back against an imaginary wall behind you. Inhaling to squeeze the shoulders up towards the ears. Exhaling to take your time to roll the shoulders back and down. Inhaling to squeeze both shoulders up. This time releasing the shoulders with a shrug. Let it go. Isolate the right shoulder now, breathing that right shoulder up towards the ear. Again, a little more control as you roll that shoulder back and down. Once more, draw the shoulder up towards the ear, keeping the neck soft. Then a shrug to let that shoulder go. Inhale, squeeze the left shoulder up. Take your time to roll that shoulder back and down. One more time to breathe that shoulder up. Exhaling to shrug that shoulder away. Perfect. Let's draw both shoulders up together. Exhaling to roll the shoulders back and down. Lift through the sternum and bring the hands to an interlock behind the lower back. Start gently here, so we'll allow the hands to almost touch the floor behind you. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift the sternum a little higher. Exhale to engage the core. Then on the next inhalation, start to pull the hands away from the lower back, encouraging a gentle opening through the chest. Wide through the chest on the inhale. On the exhale, engage the core. Slide those hands a little further back. On the next exhalation, release the hands. Extend the arms, just so that the fingertips are rested either side of the hips. On the next exhalation, extend the right arm along the mat. Inhale to lift that left arm up towards the ceiling. So we're creating a lovely diagonal line here. Don't be frightened to extend that supporting arm all the way to make a diagonal. On the next out breath, we're bringing that right elbow in towards the rib cage, then lifting that left arm up and over. Turn your gaze up towards the fingertips of the left hand. Keep pressing that left sit bone to the floor, just intensifying that stretch through the side of the waist into the rib cage. Inhale to lift, come back to center. Exhale, extend and release to the opposite side. So the palm of the left hand is on the floor. Press through the fingertips of the right hand. Exhale to ease over the upper body. Then inhale to lengthen. Encourage that stretch all the way from the waist. It helps to gently press that right sit bone to the floor. Then inhale, lift, come back towards center. Place the right hand behind the right hip. Bring the left hand to the right knee. Inhale to lift up and lengthen out of the sit bones. Rather than turning the head, let's follow the journey at the side of the rib cage. So make sure the shoulder doesn't move first as you start to gently come into a twist here. With an inhale, you're lengthening out of the sit bones. With an exhale, you're just easing a little more deeply into that twist. Let's keep all that lovely space around the lungs. Inhale to lift the arms overhead, pressing the fingertips towards the ceiling, keeping the shoulders relaxed back and down. Let's take the opposite hand to the opposite knee. So this time the left hand is gently behind the left hip. Inhale to lift, exhale to squeeze into the first part of that twist. Inhale again to re-lengthen. Exhale to squeeze a little more deeply, keeping those shoulder blades drawn together. On the inhale again, we'll lift, 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 open, lengthen through the fingertips. Then bring the palms together, creating an interlock overhead. So we start almost like as where we're pushing down on the head, then turn the palms inside out, pressing the palms up towards the ceiling, keeping the shoulders soft. So if you haven't done much moving around through this holiday, it's not unusual, particularly for women, to feel a little bit of tightness, a little bit of resistance in the shoulders. So do a few shrugs here just to ease that space in and around the shoulder joint. Keep rooted through the sit bones, lengthening again. Then on the exhale, gently ease over to the right side. Again, we're lifting and squeezing through that left side of the rib cage. Inhaling to lift back to center. Exhaling to squeeze to the opposite side. Feeling that opening at the side of the waist and rib cage. Inhale again to come back to center. Let's bring the palms back towards heart center. Keep that interlock, pressing the palms away, lengthening through the arms. Then turn the hands back in towards heart. Separate the hands. We'll switch the leg cross over, so we'll have left foot in front of right. Placing the hands on the outside of the knees. As you exhale, mindfully drawing the tummy button towards the spine and creating a curve through the spine. So this feels like a seated cat stretch, nodding the chin towards the chest. As you inhale, you can use a little purchase by gently holding the knees as you draw the sternum forward, lifting through the collarbones, bringing your gaze to the ceiling, then exhaling, curling back into that cat stretch. Inhaling, lifting once more into the cow pose, opening through the heart space. One last full round, exhaling into cat. Inhaling into cow. Then releasing back into that comfortable midpoint. So again, as though you're leaning against a wall, shoulders are relaxed. Beautiful. Let's place both hands in front of the ankles. Inhale to lift and lengthen. As you exhale, start a little walk forward. Every out breath, allow yourself to come a little deeper towards the floor. I always set an intention to bring the forearms to the floor. That might not be where you set your intention for. Consider the shape that you make from the back of the head to the tailbone. Ideally, we want to avoid excessive curvature in the spine. So try to keep that comfortable diagonal, drawing the sternum forward, easing the shoulder blades together, perhaps allowing a little more release through the back of the thighs. Then push into the palms, bring your gaze to the end of the fingertips, walk the hands back again towards the ankles. Reposition the hands behind the hips. First action is to draw the shoulder blades together. Avoid putting too much pressure into the fingers as you think about lifting the sternum. Again, bringing your gaze up towards the ceiling, opening through the front of the body, engaging those muscles across the back. Then on the exhale, draw the tummy button in, bring your gaze back to center, underside of the chin parallel to the floor. You may wish to now bring the palms flat to the floor. You can either repeat that action of opening through the sternum, or if you have a little more flexibility in the ankles, you might wish to press the shins forward, lift the bottom from the mat. Try to keep equally weighted here so you don't suddenly overload the wrists or the elbows. Keep opening through the hip flexors, the belly, the chest. Then as you exhale, reset the sit bones to the floor. Inhale to lift and lengthen back to center. I'm going to take the left leg wide, parking the right foot to the inside of the left thigh. Let's have that left toe pointing up towards the ceiling, just as a reminder that we want to remain active in this left inner thigh. Inhale to lift up. As you exhale, again, we're using the hands to help guide us a little bit lower. The intention here is to avoid lifting the sit bone from the floor. So the minute you notice that left sit bone sneaking up, you want to try and bring yourself back into balance and reset. And again, I always set an intention to get the forearms to the floor. It might be that we're just a little bit too creaky after a couple of weeks of not being mobile to quite get to that point. I'm fine with that. Push into the palms, walk the hands back towards the ankle, and we'll give the opposite leg the same treatment, recognizing that the two sides of the body will not be the same. So one side is bound to be a little tighter than the other. So lift up on an inhale. As you exhale, hinge forward. It's funny, I'm getting little aches and pains that I didn't even know I had. Little kind of like, help, help, around the hip. Push into the palms, bring the gaze to the end of the fingertips, walk the hands back again to center. So although we've said that we know that both sides of the body will not be equal, we're going to try now to find a little bit of balance. So again, I would urge you to keep the toes pointing up. It makes sure that we're engaging the right muscles. We want to avoid any overloading on the back. So try to remain lifted out of the sit bones. Then as you exhale, consider this ball and socket joint at the hips as you hinge forward, bringing the palms towards the floor, or if you wish, you can place the hands onto the ankles. If you have flexibility in the inner thighs. If you're not worried about that tension behind the knees, you might be able to bring the hands onto the feet, onto the toes. And again, consider that we are creating parallel lines here. We're not creating curvature in the spine, and that we're working with the breath to ease a little more deeply into this space. We want to reset the hands under the shoulders. Draw the shoulder blades together. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale to engage the core. And gently bring yourself back to a seated position. Lovely. So I'm going to get you onto your backs now. Now that I've gently warmed up into the hips. So if we all start on our backs with the knees bent to begin with. Let's see if we've got enough space to take our arms out to the side, ideally making a T shape, palms turned up towards the ceiling. So naturally, as soon as we lie down on our back, we will notice the real shape of our spine. The spine is not a straight line. So allow for that gentle lift in the lower back. Allow for that curvature in the upper spine. Let the back of the head relax. Beautiful. Now again, we're going to take things one side at a time. So keeping the left knee bent, roll the right knee out to one side. So it kind of feels as though you're doing a half Baddha Konasana. Allowing the weight of your body to remain equal through the hips, through the shoulders. No tension in the jaw. Gravity is encouraging a little more release in the inner thigh, in and around the hips. As you exhale, engage the core. Use that core engagement to help lift the weight of the leg back again to center. Wide through the chest on the inhalation. On the exhalation, let the left leg just gently fall to that opposite side. So again, we're mindful of that release in the inner thigh. You might notice that there's a little more tightness in this side, so perhaps that right hip feels a little higher than the left. Let's keep that gently, easily, equally weighted. Inhale again from fingertip to widen the chest. Exhale to engage the core. Roll both knees back towards center. Now let's bring the soles of the feet together. On the out breath, let both knees fully release. So we've been practicing Baddha Konasana for long enough to know that you can adjust the shape that makes it the right fit for you. The closer the heels are to the groin, the deeper the intensity will feel in the inner thighs. So there's nothing wrong with taking the feet a little further away, giving yourself a little space around the hips, and just allowing gravity to soften and find that extra space to release any tension there. Inhale once more from fingertip to widen through the chest. Exhale to engage the core and gently draw the knees together. We want to reset the feet about hip width distance apart. Because we have the feet together, we don't want them too close now that the soles of the feet are reconnected with the mat. On the out breath, gently draw both knees to the right side, but rather than rolling to that side, keep the shoulders square. Allow that left hip to lift from the floor, but try to keep that nice length, weight through the spine. Inhale from fingertip to fingertip. Exhale, engage the core. Roll the knees through center. Take the knees over to that opposite side. Taking your time, there's no rush here. And all through this practice, we're just noticing where your body says, oh, we've not done that for a while, or that feels a little strange. Wide through the chest, engaged in the core. Roll both knees back again to center.
Now walk the feet out as wide as the edge of your mat, even off the edge of your mat, and take a moment to draw the knees together. So this feels a little bit odd. It's just creating a little more space through the back of the sacrum. It's encouraging that lower back to relax. It's softening the edge at the side of the gluteal muscles at the buttocks. Beautiful. As you separate the knees, let's keep the feet as wide as the edge of the mat. Then on the next exhale, take both knees to the right side, keeping the shoulders square, turning the head to the left side. So you're going to feel a little more open, a little more traction on that left hip. Inhale from fingertip to fingertip, engaging the core to roll the knees through center. Bring the head through center, then take both knees to the left side, turning the gaze over the right arm this time. Wide through the chest, engaged in the core. Remain unclenched in the jaw. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, engage the core and roll the knees back again through center. Let's reset the feet, hip width distance apart. So we're bringing them in from the edge of the mat. And I'm going to take a moment to just replace the hands. So we're positioning the hands palms down and gently coming under the sacrum. So just below that lift in the lower back. Try to keep nice and soft through the shoulder blades, through the chest. Just take a moment to allow the weight of your hips to sink into the back of your hands. Then as you exhale, engage the core, lift the right foot up, and we'll just point that toe up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, flex the toe towards the shin. So we're inhaling to point, exhaling to flex. We're giving the lower back a little bit of a break here because we're just keeping the hands under the back of the hips, just to avoid any tightness. Come again to full flexion, push through the heel. As you exhale, keep the core engagement. We're floating the thigh down, but we're stopping at the point where the knees become level. So the thigh will be in a diagonal. Keep that right leg straight. Use the big toe to draw 3 circles in towards the midline of the body. Change direction, take those circles the opposite way. Bring the foot back to flexion, keep the core engaged. Float that heel down until it's resting an inch from the floor. Try to unclench the buttocks, relax. Wide through the chest, unclench the jaw. Inhale to point the toe. Exhale to flex. Then on the next exhalation, engage the core, bend that knee up and replace that right foot on the floor. Just to give the hands a little break, we'll slide the hands out from underneath the hips, take them wide again into that T-shaped position. Wiggle the fingers, bring the fingers in to make fists, squeeze the shoulder blades together, hold that tension in the fists, in the arms, in the shoulders. Then as you exhale, relax, let that go. Reposition the hands underneath the bottom now. So again, palms facing down, just gently lifting the lower back. Inhale to lift and lengthen through the left leg. We're inhaling to point, exhaling to flex, inhaling to point, exhaling to come to a deeper flexion, pushing through the heel, engaging the core, then floating that leg down until again the knees become level. Beautiful. Let's take this point to draw 3 circles with the big toe in towards center. Then change direction. This one's to loosen off any creaky ankles. Then engage the core, bring that heel all the way down to an inch from the mat. We'll remind ourselves here to unclench the buttocks, to relax, to soften. Inhale to point the toe. Exhale to flex, pressing through the heel. A little bit of extra zhuzh there for the calf muscle. Then again, we'll slide the hands from underneath the bottom, this time exhaling to hug that left knee in towards the chest. Replacing that left ankle on top of the right thigh. So we're just above the knee. We want to bring that left knee a little bit rotated in towards the middle of the body, so lining up with the sternum. Keep the hands either side of the hips. Exhale, draw the tummy button in. As you push the lower back to the floor, inhale to lift the right foot, squeeze that right knee in towards the chest. So we're just now getting a little bit of release, a little bit of opening to the left side of the buttock, into that side of the hip, squeezing a little deeper. Beautiful. Then easing that right foot to the floor, unhooking the left. We'll do the same action on the other side, so the right foot comes up and over. Exhaling to draw the tummy button in. Inhaling to lift now the left foot from the floor as you squeeze that knee in. Try to keep a check on this right knee. If it's turned out, you won't get the stretch in the right place and it might feel a little odd in and around the hips. So keep that right knee drawn in. Exhale to squeeze a little tighter. Then on the out breath, replace that foot to the floor. Let's unhook the right foot, resetting both feet hip width distance apart. I like the hands either side of the hips for this next one, so palms turned up towards the ceiling, shoulder blades drawn together to create stability through the upper back. Push down into the soles of the feet, inhale to lift the thighs from the mat. So consider once more the diagonal line shape. So we want to avoid too much weight in the bottom, so we don't really want to be drawn down at the hips. Think about using the hips and the hip flexors as your headlights. So you're pressing the hip flexors up towards the ceiling. We're avoiding putting too much tension in the buttocks. Try pressing the shins forward to lengthen through the thighs. Keep that space through the upper chest so you can feel that there's a real gap underneath the shoulder blades, that we're opening through the front of the body. Inhale to lift the arms overhead. Let the back of the hands drift towards the floor. Press through the shins, keep lifting the thighs, keep lifting through the hip flexors. Keep those hands rested on the floor. Then as you exhale, start at the space between the shoulder blades and slowly start to roll down through the spine, vertebra by vertebra. So again, I'll remind you that shoulders can often be an area for tension. So if you're starting to feel that this is dragging, particularly the top of the shoulders, choose a point to bring the arms down by your side as you continue to roll down through the spine, feeling that connection through middle back, lower back, then bringing the back of the hips fully to the floor. Then as you exhale, hug both knees in towards the chest. We're going to take a moment here, almost as though we're drawing a figure of 8 above the hips, just to gently release tension through the sacrum, through the lower back, returning again to centre. Now, it wouldn't be a January class if we didn't put a little bit of tummy work in. So from here, let's bring the knees directly above the hips. Let's set the heels in line with the knees. So we're creating a 90-degree angle here in the lower body. Then keep the back of the head and the shoulders nicely released to the floor as you lift both arms. It helps to turn the palms in towards one another, thumbs pointing to the back of the room. And just a little reminder to soften the shoulders. So let the arms almost like push the weight of the shoulders to the floor. Check in again with that natural lift on the lower back. With every exhale, remind yourself to exaggerate drawing the tummy button in. It's almost as though you're trying to fill that little gap under the lower back, pushing the lower back to the floor. So for now, we're just in static contraction, waking up those abdominal muscles, just reminding them that what their task is. We want them to support the weight of the spine, the weight of the legs. Keep nice and soft in the shoulders. Then as you exhale, let's once more work with this shoulder joint. Let's take the arms back. Take the arms a little wider if that helps with the shoulders, and rest the thumbs an inch from the floor. So we've lengthened the lever away from the midline of the body. So you might start to feel there's a little bit more resistance in the core. It might start to feel like you're kind of jerking and shaking a little. Let's keep the breath nice and calm. Every out breath drawing the tummy button in, pushing the lower back to the floor. Take one further full deep inhalation. Then as you exhale, let's have a moment to draw the knees in towards the chest, releasing the upper body, relaxing the core. Then we'll come back again to that upside down table position. So knees once more above hips, heels in line with the knees. So I've sat up so I can have a look at you now. We don't want the heels too high. Think about creating that 90-degree angle. Good. You will know your own tolerance. So earlier, we placed the hands underneath the hips just to help give us that little bit of tip in the hips, just to help the lower back a little. That will work the same if you're finding this tricky. The closer you bring the knees towards the body, the more that will mimic that kind of action of placing something under the hips. But you don't want to give in too soon. Conversely, if you want to push your feet a little further away, you will find it's a little bit more challenging. So you want to find the sweet spot where you're just on the edge of mild discomfort. Perfect. Now let's keep the left knee bent. On your next exhalation, use the out breath for the effort to straighten the right leg and lower that heel down to an inch from the floor. Try not to take it all the way to the floor. Just to take your mind off it, inhale to point the toe, exhale to flex, just so that you're not thinking about it. Then on the next out breath, bring that right knee back up to the 90-degree angle. Now extend and lengthen through the left leg. So we're just doing opposite leg, keeping the arms where they are. So for some of you, the arms are still over the shoulders. You might have chosen to take the arms by your side. You know what's right for you. Watch that right heel isn't now drooping. Keep it in a 90-degree angle. Then as you exhale, engage the core, bring both knees back to center and give that a little hug in. Perfect. So just using one hand, gesturing towards the camera, we can say 1 to 5, 1 being really easy and 5 being quite challenging. Just give me an indication of where we are on effort with that sequence we've just done. Oh, there's quite a lot of 5s there. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, I won't do the next one. I won't do the next one because I think that might just break you. You'll be like, I'm never coming back again. Okay, what I will do though is what we did earlier was we used our hands underneath the sacrum, underneath the hips, to give a little bit more support to the lower back. So from the position that you're in with the knees bent, slide your hands underneath the bottom again. And make sure it's kind of in a nice sort of fleshy part because it just cuts off the circulation in your hands. As you exhale, draw the tummy button in. As you inhale, lift both feet. And I want you to press the heels up towards the ceiling. So it kind of feels as though we're working the hamstrings here because most of us are fairly tight in the back of the legs. But actually, it's really good discipline for the core. I've given you that little bit of a helping hand by lifting the hips slightly from the floor. Again, distraction is always good. So inhale, point both toes. Exhale, flex. Inhale, point. Exhale, come to flexion, push through the heels. Then as you exhale, bend the knees, replace the feet to the floor. So we're going to repeat that, but this time without that little bit of a help of the lift underneath the hips. So to avoid any temptation of doing so, take the hands either side of the hips, turn the palms up towards the ceiling. This nicely opens through the chest. Engage the core. Be very mindful of really pushing the lower back into the floor, then lift both feet up, come again into flexion. So straight away you can feel that this is working a little bit harder. You might feel there's a little bit more resistance even in the hip flexors, certainly in the space between the hip points. As you exhale, lower the heels down, literally a couple of inches. If you go any further, it will be quite hard work on the back. So we're just pausing here in this gentle diagonal. Inhale to point both toes. Exhale to flex, press through the heels. Then on the out breath, hug both knees towards the chest. Beautiful. Now replace both feet to the floor. So we're going to begin this next position as we are, knees bent, feet on the floor, a little bit of a gap between the thighs, back of the hips square, back of the shoulders square. Now take the arms out so that they are turned up towards the ceiling, palms up towards the ceiling in a T shape. Now we've done this one loads of times before, but people get a little bit confused about it. We're going to lift the bottom off the mat just an inch, and we're going to effectively just push the hips over to the right hand side. So all you're doing is taking your hips out of center. So you're lifting, replacing the bottom on the floor. Now pop the right ankle on top of the left knee. Then on the out breath, take that right knee over the midline of the body and keep traveling down towards the floor. So there becomes a point where you can feel this is a big stretch around the outside of the hip. And if I'm not careful, my right shoulder is going to pop up off the floor. So turn the gaze over the right arm and keep bringing that right knee over the midline of the body. Keep allowing that twist, that stretch to the right side of the hip. We're allowing the weight of the right knee come almost to the floor. For some of you, coming to the floor will be comfortable. For most of us, that's quite tight. Now, I feel quite a lot of tightness and resistance here tonight, so I'm happy that gravity is my friend and I don't need to push it any further. If you're quite flexible, or if you feel actually that's quite easy for me, you might want to use the weight of the left hand, gently applied to the outside of the right thigh, to apply a little deeper pressure to create more of a stretch to the right side of the hip and the buttock. I definitely don't need that today, so I'm just going to keep in my T-shaped position with my head over the right shoulder so that I can keep that right shoulder weighted. Then as you exhale, engage the core, lift the weight of the knees first back to center, bring the head back to center. Remember that we've took the hips over to one side, so just shuffling the hips back to the middle will help. Then unhook the right foot. Easy as that. So to do the same on the other side, lift the hips up, push the whole of the hips to the left, reset the bottom to the floor, left foot up and over, then bring that left knee over the midline of the body as you take your gaze over the left arm. So you're kind of coming over the whole midline of your body. I can't see everyone fully, but I think you've all got the right idea. So ways that you can make this nicer is to really consider
how much opening you've got through the chest. So can you breathe that left shoulder fully to the floor? Again, gravity might be working enough for you tonight. If you need a little extra weight, you can bring the opposite hand onto that thigh and just encourage a slightly deeper opening through the side of the hip. Beautiful. Now think of a big inhalation to fill from fingertip to fingertip and exhalation to engage the core, finding your way with the knees back to center, unhooking the left foot, bringing the hips back into that square shape. Lovely. So let's make sure that we've got the feet hip width distance apart, insides of the feet parallel, a little bit of a gap between the thighs, between the knees, palms either side of the hips turned up towards the ceiling, shoulder blades drawn together. Push once more into the soles of the feet. Repeat that bridge lift that we did earlier. So one of the key things in our bridge lift, we talked before about using the hip flexors as headlights. So keep lifting through the hip flexors. But notice if that starts to create a misalignment in the knees. Typically the knees will roll open when we put too much pressure on the joint. So try to keep the knees directly above the heels. Try to keep pressing the shins forward so we're keeping that really strong alignment. Now slide your hands underneath, bring your hands into an interlock. Ideally we want the forearms rested on the floor. Beautiful. So that will force you, I think, to create a little more space under the lower back, under the hips, to keep pressing the shins forward. Nice shapes, good. Think about that space between the hip flexor and the top of the thigh. That's the sweet spot. Breathe into that space, open towards the ceiling. Nice. Then separate the hands, let the shoulders relax. And again, we're going to do that action of starting at the space between the shoulder blades, gently roll down through the spine, vertebra by vertebra. So we don't rush this. We want to feel that real joy of release. Slowly, gradually, finding that middle back, the lower back, the back of the hips, then fully unclenching the buttocks. And if you're happy to do so, just take the legs long. We're not quite in Shavasana position yet, but we're getting into that kind of zone. So the legs are extended, the palms are again turned up towards the ceiling. Allow the feet to become heavy. Allow the inner thighs to soften. On the next inhalation, lift the arms overhead. We'll rest the backs of the hands an inch from the floor, so we're not taking the arms all the way. Bring the thumbs together to create an interlock. Then pick the feet up, that's the wrong expression. Bring the toes up, bringing the feet into flexion. So the back of the calves are still rested on the floor, pressing through the heels, opening through the soles of the feet. You can feel that extra lift at the sides of the waist now. As you exhale, squeeze the upper body over to the right. Imagine that you're making the shape of a banana, so you've got a really deep stretch through the side of the waist, into the rib cage, into the underarm. Then inhale again, return to center. Separate the thumbs just to give a break. Point through fingers, point through toes. Come back again to flexion in the feet, interlock in the thumbs, then exhale to squeeze to the left side. Again, that gorgeous lift, that extension through the right side of the body. Then inhale, return again to center, pointing through fingers and toes, taking a long stretch through the side of the body. On the next out breath, hug the knees in towards the chest. So I'm going to bring you now into a Shavasana. If you would prefer to dim the lights, it's quite lovely because some of you got Christmas trees in the background, it's really nice. If you would prefer to dim the lights, you may do so. You might want to pull on a blanket or a pair of socks if the room's got a little chilly since you've been lying down. And choose the position that best supports you. And remember, now is always a good time, if you prefer to perhaps pull a cushion, a pillow, place it underneath the knees. And to find again that release in the joints, starting at the jaw, relaxing the tongue in the well of the mouth. And again, I would just urge you to hang out for a moment, listening to your body, checking in, perhaps checking in on any parts of the body at the beginning of this practice that we're maybe asking for a little extra attention. If you still feel there's a little resistance there, try sending a nourishing, energizing breath to that part of the body. And as you exhale, give permission to release that tension, to let go. Think of every inhalation as recharging your body, resetting, rebalancing. Every exhalation is a letting go of tension, ridding your body of anything that doesn't serve you, making space for all the new and positive things to come into your life. Now once more, scan your body from head to toe and allow your focus to rest at the soles of your feet. Even if you've chosen to lay down or if you're in a seated position, you might still be aware of that magnetic pull from the soles of your feet to the earth beneath you. That sense of remaining grounded, of being here and now, being present for your practice. Relax the right foot, relax the left foot. Feel both feet fully released and relaxed. Relax the ankles, the calves and the shins. Soften and release the ankles, the calves and the shins. Let go of the tension in the knees. Soften the backs of the knees, the top of the knees. Soften the inner thighs. It almost feels as though the inner thighs are rolling outwards. The back of the thighs softening a little more deeply into the floor. Buttocks soft and released. Tops of your thighs heavy and rested. Bring your full awareness to the space in and around the hip joint. It might help to visualize sending the breath here. Breathing in and around the right hip. Releasing to let go. Sending the breath in and around the left hip. Exhaling to release and let any tension go. Becoming aware now of the weight
through the full length of your legs, the weight through the back of your hips, the sense that the wide muscles of your back have simply melted into the earth beneath you. Your spine heavy, your arms heavy by your side. Relax the fingers, the palm of the right hand. Relax the fingers and the palm of the left hand. Relax the wrists, the forearms. Soften the elbows and the upper arms. Once more, working with the breath, breathing in and around the right shoulder joint, exhaling to release and soften. Breathing in and around the left shoulder joint, exhaling to fully release and relax. Noticing how much more space is available to you through the front of your body. Deepening your breath once more. Inhaling to fill the lungs. Exhaling to release anything heavy weighing down on you. Returning to that rhythm we set at the top of the class. Inhaling deeply to the belly, the chest and the collarbones. Exhaling fully from the collarbones, the chest and the belly last. Continue this deepened, lengthened breath, allowing the breath to become a little noisier. Releasing your next exhalation with an audible sigh. Just allow your breath to find its way back to a natural, easy rhythm. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Feeling that cool air from the tip of the nose along the nasal passages. That warm air over your throat. Perhaps noticing the cool air in the room against your face, your hands and your feet. As you start to slowly return sensation here. Wiggling fingers, wiggling toes. Wriggle the jaw a little. Wriggle the nose. If you're in a supine position, choose whether you'd prefer to take a long stretch or hug the knees to the chest, taking your time, slowly rolling to one side and returning again to a comfortable seated position. Now bring your hands to an Anjali Mudra. Touch to the head for kind thoughts, to the lips for kind words, and to the heart for kind intentions. The light in me honours the light in you. Namaste.
Stop the recording now.